Boy, there is just nonstop drama when it comes to where these professional sports teams in Kansas City may end up next. And someone who may have something to say about that is possibly our next guest, Sam Graves. Of course, you know him well as the Northland representative in the United States Congress, but he also is the chairman of the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure. And let's be honest, when you talk about ingress, egress, wherever you're talking about, whether it's right now at Truman, whether it's up in North KC, whether it's Overland Park, whether it's at the Legends, it doesn't matter. Ingress, egress for both of these teams and for obviously the municipalities and the counties involved is a big part of the equation. So what role could the feds, could the Transportation Committee have on all this? Sam Graves, kind enough to join us for a few minutes on KCMO. Congressman, it's great to have you here as always. We appreciate your time. So as you've gone through this process and you know obviously what's going on here with these teams, how could your role with the Transportation Committee potentially impact what happens with our professional sports franchises?
Well, there's several things, but one of the things that we obviously need to work on is the I-29, I-35 interchange. That's something that's going to be very important to this. Well, and it's important regardless of whether or not the Royals move to the Northland. But ultimately, I hope we keep the Royals in Missouri, and I'm committed to helping however I can.
So is that one of those things where it would be partial state money, partial federal money? What does that breakdown potentially look like?
Well, it always helps if there's local and state buy-in on the process. That helps tremendously when it comes to getting money from the federal government, because these partnerships they're good for everyone, and it kind of puts a finger on the scales a little bit, to be quite honest with you.
So is this something that you've potentially had a conversation with Sean Duffy, the Transportation Secretary, or President Trump about yet, or are you holding off on that?
I'm holding off on talking to them. I will talk to them. I know there's a lot of people that, in the Northland that are looking at this and trying to figure out, what's going to happen. But I've told the governor and leadership in the Northland that I'm committed to doing whatever they need to help at the federal level. And, being the chairman of TNI, that puts me in a great position to do just that. And so whatever they need, I'm going to do it.
Do you, and I don't know if this is something that you've explored yet, or has anyone told you, what kind of money when it comes to setting up the proper highway system, I-29, I-35 up in that area, what the cost of this would look like when it comes to setting up the highway system, how it would need to be set up to have the Royals up north?
So that's something that we're looking at right now, and we already I got that bridge grant for Clay County to study that I-29, I-35 interchange. We don't have an actual figure yet. We know it's going to be expensive. We have some preliminary figures, but that's being looked at right now, to be quite honest with you.
So is this something, as you said, you want to keep the Royals in the state of Missouri. Do you feel like this issue that I don't think has gotten a lot of attention when we talk about where this team could end up, does this issue, in your estimation, give Missouri a leg up over Kansas in trying to keep the Royals?
I think it helps. It helps in a big way. There's obviously some issues with moving the Royals to Kansas, and I know that the Royals are taking a hard look at that, and they're looking at all of their options. But it would sure be great if it ended up in North Kansas City.
What do you perceive as the issues in Kansas?
Well, they offered their star bonds to move to Kansas. That you're also seeing some pushback from some of the from business and from some of the local residents in a couple of the sites that are being recommended in the Overland Park Leawood area. It's when you get a little bit of pushback like that, that has some impact as well. But Missouri's stepping up to the plate, and they want the governor wants to keep them in Missouri. Most everybody in the Northland and in Kansas City wants to keep them in Missouri. So, that's what we're moving towards.
For you in particular, I know like right now, after these maps were redrawn a few years ago, you do not technically represent North KC, I believe, right? But when the map got redrawn here a couple of months ago, now that's suddenly going to be back in your district. Do you have a preference on whether or not this is officially in your Sam Graves' district, or are you like, no, I'm just a Missouri guy on this, and however I can help Missouri is what I'm really about?
That's absolutely the case. I'm a Missouri person, and I want to make sure that the Royals stay in Missouri. And if they go downtown, or if they go to Crown Center, or if they go to the Northland, I just want to make sure they stay in Missouri, and that's what I'm going to work towards.
Sam Graves is here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. Is there a deadline that you perceive in terms of when you feel like you've got to get the ball rolling on any of this on your end to try to help expedite the process and do what you think you need to do when it comes to funding egress for a potential Northland Stadium?
Well, we've got the highway bill coming up. We're going to be doing a markup in my committee on that highway bill the first part of next year, and we'll have it off the House floor sometime in the spring. So that kind of gives us a deadline in terms of getting something in the House version of that bill, and that's going to be my bill coming out. And so we're going to have some sort of an idea on what's going to be needed before we move that bill across the floor.
Okay, so speaking of that long-term highway bill, what does that typically look like? People may think about that and be like, well, that's not the sexiest thing, but obviously the roads that we drive on are a big deal. So what is in that long-term highway bill? I know it's not finalized, but what's in it, and what would be noticeable for Missourians and Kansans, for that matter, in a bill like this?
Well, this is something that we do when it comes to reauthorization, and in all of our transportation areas, we reauthorize those programs every 4 to 5 years. So this is a major bill. It deals with the construction of all and maintenance of all of our roads and bridges. This particular bill, the bill I'm working on, is going to be more of a traditional highway bill. That means we're going to be pouring concrete, laying asphalt, and building bridges. We're not going to be doing all the other things that might be proposed. They're funded through our federal fuel tax dollars and state fuel tax dollars. But we're going through that process now. It's going to be a very, very large bill, and I'm looking forward to it. We've done, since 1956, we've done 11 highway bills, and we've gotten into this reauthorization process. Now, out of those 11 bills with this one, I will have written 5 of those, or been a part of writing 5 of those. This one will be my bill in particular, but so I've been doing this quite a while, and I know how this process works, and I'm going to do everything I can to help the state of Missouri moving forward.
What's the biggest thing you want to see for Missouri in this bill?
Well, the biggest thing, and it's not so much for Missouri, but for the whole country, we have people on the road that are getting a free ride. I'm a small government conservative, but I also believe, and I resist taxes, but I also believe in user fees. If you're going to use a government infrastructure, or in this case, a highway, then you should be paying for the use of that. And people that drive gasoline vehicles or diesel-powered vehicles, they pay for the use of that road. But people with electric vehicles, they don't pay anything for the use of that road. And so we need to shore up the Highway Trust Fund, which is what pays for the surface transportation bill, and they need to start paying. So we're looking at various options to do just that. And the fact is, too, we've also got more efficient cars on the road with hybrids, and they need to start paying for their share of the use of the road. So we're looking at that, and that's gonna have a huge impact on the entire country, because that'll be the first new money in the Highway Trust Fund in 30 years.
Wow. All right. And you feel confident this is going to be a smooth process, or are we going to be dealing with another government shutdown here at the end of January?
I think it's going to be a smooth process, at least as far as the highway bill goes. It's a bipartisan issue. Mm-hmm. There aren't any Democrat bridges or Republican roads. It's a bipartisan issue, and I will make this a member-driven bill, so everybody will have a stake in the game, and that's the way I've done all the bills coming out of the Transportation Committee, and the reason I've been so successful in getting them signed into law.
All right, there you go. Sam Graves, Missouri Congressman, of course, up north, joining us on KCMO. Thank you so much, Congressman. Appreciate the time as always.
Thanks, Pete. I appreciate it, and it's good to hear you back on the air.
Yeah, likewise. Sam Graves, good to have him on KCMO Talk Radio. He's an interesting and underrated power player in this Royals and even Chiefs conversation, but I think more so Royals right now. When you've got the guy who heads the Transportation Committee, who wants to see these teams say on one side of state line, and he's got the juice to potentially direct millions of dollars in funding for ingress-egress, where are you betting your money? Missouri or Kansas?